Hi everyone. Welcome to somewhat of an impromptu live tonight. It is nonetheless a very exciting one because I am going to be bringing in shortly at Curvygirlbeth. We recently connected through another amazing company, Plus Amplified. They had a workshop and we were split off into these different groups and we were able to connect. And I'm so happy that she is on board with me and speaking about NADA, the National Eating Disorders Association. They're having the NADA Awareness Week, and it's all about speaking about your stories with eating disorders, raising awareness, stories of hope, and sharing resources and fundraising. Like I just put at the bottom of this live a fundraiser. And the reason I have the comments off is because if you have a question and you would like to ask something or comment something, you can always click right on the bottom, and we would like to keep it body related, body positivity, eating disorder related, and on those topics specifically. So we appreciate that everyone is super respectful of this topic, as it is something near and dear to my heart and a serious issue. So I'm so happy to have Curvygirlbeth. I will bring you in if you're ready. Let's see. Is she here? Are you here, Curvygirlbeth? If you are, please request to go live with me. And if there is anyone else that would like to share their personal stories with eating disorders, maybe with someone that was close to them as well, and how they were able to help them or handle that situation, or if you are a healthcare professional that also deals with these situations and has some insight and stories and things to share, more like resources, and I'm going to be putting a lot of those in my stories. So this week all my posts are going to be geared in that direction for NADA Awareness Week, and definitely check out my stories because I'm going to be putting mostly there book recommendations, podcasts, different websites that you can seek out therapy and treatment and things like that. So let's bring in Beth for your beautiful face. Oh, we got a donation so far, $10. Woo, 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 woo. Thank you. Hi. How are you? You're looking cute with the red on red.
Yes, well, I made the commitment to wear red every day in the month of February because it's the month of love,
Love.
and then also kind of in support of the American Heart Association for women wearing red.
That's
That was
awesome.
February 6th. So,
Did you
yeah,
have to buy
I'm
any
happy
new
to have
clothes,
a
or you
red
had?
office.
Did you have to buy anything new, or you had like enough red?
No, red is like my favorite color, so
That's
I literally have. Although today I was like, wait, what did I wear when I was with Bella on that other? Like,
Well,
wait,
luckily it's really
I'm like,
like
no, I think I wore that. Okay, wait, let me go find something else.
no one knows. Like I wouldn't have remembered probably. I
I
don't even
know.
remember what I
And I
wore.
totally thought that I took a picture of us, and I couldn't find it. I thought I took a whole bunch of pictures through that thing, and
Yeah,
there was like nothing. I took one of the panel, and it was like a really crummy picture. I was like, okay, well, no wonder why I never posted any of those.
right. Well, it's because when you're in like a Zoom too, it's like I'm trying to secretly take a
Yeah,
picture with my phone and then like smile at the same time. It's like
right.
hard to be
Yeah,
sneaky about it.
yeah, yeah. And then, yeah, I like to make sure that everybody kind of looks okay, too.
All
And
right.
so,
Aw, that's nice of you to like think of everyone. I appreciate that.
yeah.
So we wanted to come together. I was so happy that you reached out And did you reach out before I posted that, or was it after? I don't
Well,
even
no,
know.
all morning I was like, you know what? I'm gonna send her a text and see if she wants to do this today.
Yeah.
And then I sent it, and then I saw that you had posted that, and I was like, oh God, like this is so, I mean, I just feel like in my life, I always feel like everything happens so much for a reason, and you're
Yeah.
always put in people's way for, something, there's always something. And so I just kind of have to laugh a little bit about this
Yeah.
because this is going to sound really, really stupid, but I kind of forgot that I had an eating disorder ever. Like, I kind of forgot about it
Okay. But maybe
until,
that's a really positive thing, not a stupid thing. It's like, oh,
well, yes,
I'm good. I'm so
right.
good. I
I mean,
forgot.
so there is recovery in that, right? There's recovery that I'm not obsessed about it every day. I don't think about it every day. I don't go, oh my God, when, kind of thing like that. And, and so anyway, so whenever that was a few weeks ago, when we met up, then there was something, I don't know, happened last week maybe, and then on this weekend I was at the BodyCon conference,
Oh,
and
right.
Bird Papaya was talking, and I think it was with for the launch of the Real Catwalk because I participated in the home edition, and
Awesome.
so Mick says, "Oh, and I hadn't been following her work before that," and so anyway, so it just all sort of came together just in the last few days, and I was like, "Oh my God, this is really something I've never talked about."
Yeah.
In my case, I talk about lipedema all the time because I have lipedema, and that affects the lower half of 11% of women and gives me all these luscious curves, and there you go. But
I had to
and I said,
actually look that up, even though I had been aware of that. Um, that like I don't know exactly what you would call it, but I knew a lot of people that did have that, but I didn't know exactly what it was called. So I had to. And if yeah, if you can explain like a little on
yeah,
that.
so for me, I was, I fought my weight my whole life, and I was been on every diet, been through every medical program there was, been through a lot of stuff. And for me, it was, I was never bulimic. I would say I wasn't ever anorexic, but I did a lot of fasts, so maybe, I don't know. But
I mean, a lot of those terms can really be
right, it all comes
intertwined. So
right.
people, yeah, like
Intersection, right?
yeah,
And I definitely had a period of time where I was binge eating for sure. That was, I thought that's what you did to self-soothe and to, get out of a situation and, all of that kind of thing. And so, um, but it was not until 2017 that I learned about this thing called lipedema, and it was because I had a concussion. I went to physical therapist, and she's like, have you always been shaped like this? And I was like, yeah, I'm Italian. Like, of course, like this is how we are. This is how my mother, and she's like, oh, your mother was like this, because there's a hereditary component.
okay,
And she's like, yeah. And she's like, do your legs hurt or feel heavy? And I was like, I don't like, no.
okay,
And then she did a couple of tests and felt around, and she left it like that. And no joke, the very next day, a friend of a friend had this keto coach. And so I was checking with her about this keto coach. And she's like, well, if I was going to do it again, I would use this other person. So I go to read the other person, and this woman's life story is my life. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, this is like, what are you talking about?
yeah,
And so anyway, it is affects 11% of women, worldwide, and I think that's really just the people we know of, right? So it's very undiagnosed and it's very misdiagnosed, generally as obesity. And so it is not something that you can diet and exercise off, because it's actually an additional layer of disease fat that is very nodular in fashion. So if you see,
wow,
like, if you ever look at my legs that are not, like, I almost never edit any of my pictures. So they're lumpy, bumpy, like, they look like cellulite, cottage cheese, whatever you want to call it, right? But I always say now, like, I probably don't even have cellulite. It's just I have all this
it's
lipedema that
that
comes
right,
right under the skin. And it's literally like you feel like you're sitting on a bag of pearls. and your legs feel very heavy. They feel like sandbags, really. But
Wow.
I've had usually comes on at puberty, pregnancy, or menopause, or maybe from a traumatic event or like a surgery. Likely you had it in you and then it just, spurted kind of thing.
Okay.
It's very estrogen fed. Uh, and so anyway, so it's kind of like, when I found this out, I was like, oh my God, like, are you kidding me? This
Yeah.
is, what do you mean I wasn't responsible for every time I went on a fast, every time I exercised every day, every time I did that, I didn't lose like somebody else would lose.
Right.
Yeah, like my top was tiny, tiny, but my bottom didn't really, you know, change all that much, and then each
Wow.
time, like the measurements or the ratios would get different because like the top would get smaller, the bottom would get bigger, the top would get smaller, the bottom would
Yeah.
get bigger. So here, this is my body is a life of dieting, I mean, it's just
Right.
crazy.
And you
Um,
must have been driving yourself literally crazy not knowing, and I'm glad that there are pages like yours that speak about it and more people can become aware if it happens to them during puberty at a young age and not beat
yeah.
themselves up that like they're trying to lose this
I
that
mean,
is just really something that
yeah,
they can't, or it's a part of them, and just be more aware.
right. So for me, I do my page at first was because I really wanted to create awareness. And then it's grown to more than that, where I really want, the representation matters. It really does. Because if I had, as an adolescent, so my particular situation, I was congenital, I had it since birth.
Okay.
But um, if I had been, like I was, whatever, 16 years old, I weighed 140 pounds. I kind of look normal. I mean, in retrospect, I kind of look normal, but I thought I was at Amazon.
Right.
And that was because, I had people around me. I was never bullied, but I had people around me telling me, like, oh, nobody's going to like thick thighs and nobody's going to, like a big butt. And so, you
Hmm.
got to lose, you got to go on a diet, and so
Yeah.
that was, always my conditioning. And so I got in that cycle of, okay, let me diet, 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 diet. Okay, great. Okay, well, that didn't work. Okay, let me eat, eat, eat. Okay, let me diet, diet, diet. Let me eat,
Right.
eat, when I went to college, I gained a tremendous amount of weight. I mean, probably not as much as I could have, but I was totally carb loading. Like in my family, we ate very minimally. We
Okay.
ate very clean, and then I got to college, and I was like, "Oh, I can have a sandwich anytime I want. Oh, I could have bread. I could
Like
have rice.
every college kid does it.
Oh, I
I
could
did
have
it.
pizza. Like whatever." And so I had
Yeah.
those things.
Right.
Um, you know, um, and so I gained, I gained weight during college. Probably it wasn't that much, but I thought that I was big then. But I think I was saying when I was 16, when I was 16 and 140 pounds, if I had known that there were other women that looked like me, it, it would have been a completely different ball game.
Right.
It just would have, but I never saw that. And I only saw people. My best friend weighed 103 pounds and she was bow-legged on top of it.
Oh
So,
wow.
and she was shorter than me, but she had really long legs.
Yeah.
So, that was like the holy grail for me, and you could see her kneecaps were 100% like sticking out of her leg, and I
Right.
never had kneecaps from birth, so it's kind of like, you know, um, and
Yeah.
so it kind of led to that cycle of, okay, let me diet very strictly. And then, because I would be perfect and exercise and whatever. And throughout my like growing up years, I always thought that I wasn't active because I didn't play on a sports team. But I took ballet, tap, and jazz from first grade through 12th grade. I was in the kick line. I was in the um, dance team. I was, like all these stupid
Yeah.
things that I would do. I roller skated all the time. We would always go,
Yeah.
places or, dancing. So I was always doing something to move my body and especially my lower half, which is even funnier, really.
Yeah.
But I always thought, oh, well, I didn't, I didn't exercise because I
Right.
didn't, go run the track or go to the gym or, that kind of thing. And so it's
Yeah.
kind of, yeah, it's been, interesting.
Misconceptions. Yeah. And I
Yeah.
think um a good point that you said is like all this trying of different ways to get a result. Of course, you're going to probably dabble in the eating disorder behavior and realm because you're like, okay, well, I tried this diet, I tried this. Now I'm gonna like starve, or like you were saying, sometimes you were fasting. Um, I've had people tell me that my brain is very like an anorexic brain, but I wasn't really anorexic. Like, I was mostly binging and purging. um, and I think a lot of people that don't know that, at least for me, this became something for me that after a while of many years of kind of going in and out of that cycle, I also turned to that behavior to cope with like stress, or
Mhm.
like you were saying,
Sure.
binge eating, like,
Like eating is a form of comfort,
right,
or starving is a form of comfort because eating didn't work last week, like,
right. Yeah, it becomes almost like a drug in a way, because I had felt a lot of times when I was like in a binging, sometimes I would just binge, or most times it would be binging, purging like cycle. I was like mindless. Like I was just ordering food like all day long. I was doing that, and I was using it as a way to avoid like reality, responsibilities. If I was really overwhelmed, it did become like a comfort, and like I feel like you don't know that you're doing it even. Like it's like you
yeah,
just like
yeah. I remember when I first
zone
moved to
out.
California, and because I grew up in New York also. And when I first moved to California, I didn't know anybody. Like, I didn't know anybody my age. I had relatives, but I didn't know anybody my age. And so, like, on Friday nights, I would like go and drive like the coast or something like that. And I was not a person who was going to go out by myself. Like that was not my
Yeah.
thing. And so, like along the way, then I would stop to get something to eat because that was something that I knew, right? And I
Mm-hmm.
could do that by myself. And I also found that the food in California did not taste like the food in New York because it didn't taste as good. And I would be like, is this really that bad? And so then I would eat the next bite, like somebody else might just throw it out and be like, this is gross. I would be like, I would try to get through to the end of it to make sure that it was really like there was nothing that
Good.
tasted,
Yeah.
you know. And
Yeah.
I gained a tremendous amount of weight doing that. Like it was crazy.
And that's a good point too, that something, I was in an eating disorder outpatient program for about like a
Mhm.
month and a half. And we learned, when you're learning like these good and bad foods that everyone teaches you, oh, burgers are bad, pizza's bad, but salad's good, then you are gonna, when you're alone, you're gonna go order the food and not be embarrassed. So it's like it creates this pattern of like eating in secret. At least for me, I would always like, when I used to drive, I lived on Long Island, and I would like go to Taco Bell and go to these places that like my mom would not really want me
Take
to have or allow me to have. But if we just lived like normal people, where you are
right.
allowed to eat anything you want, you really are. It's just
Exactly.
you wouldn't think of it, and you wouldn't go crazy because you're like, okay, I can have a little ice cream today, and I could also
Right.
have it tomorrow. So I don't need to overindulge right
Right.
now.
Yeah.
That's
Like when I went to college, we never had dessert in my house unless it was a holiday.
yeah,
And so I could have dessert every time. I could have a dessert at breakfast. I could have dessert at lunch. I could have dessert at dinner. And
yeah,
I was going for it for sure. I
yeah.
mean, as I telling you this, I'm like, wow, it's amazing that I didn't gain more weight than I did. I think over the period of the whole time, I really gained like about 40 pounds.
Okay.
And then by the end, like I lost like 20, so maybe I finished college up 20 more than I was when I started, kind of like that.
Mm-hmm.
But in my mind, I was like an Amazon, I was huge. And it's just
Because there
so,
was no like thick being good when you were growing up, especially like I'm Italian too. So in that community, it
yeah,
wasn't celebrated to be curvaceous or have like, I had big boobs from like a young age, and it wasn't cool to be that. And
I was with
thank.
somebody the other day who was talking about, in an Italian household, you're fed, you're fed, you're fed, you're fed, and then you're shamed for eating it.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like, oh my God, that was
Oh
just
my
the
gosh.
funniest,
It's like, why aren't you
absolute
eating? Why aren't
truth.
you eating? And then it's like, but I was always celebrated if I lost weight, Um,
Yes.
but like, keep eating this. And I'm like, well, I can't lose
Yeah.
weight and
Why
eat
did
this.
you
So
eat
what do
it?
you want?
Yeah. Such mixed messages. It's crazy. It's
Yeah.
so insane. It's really insane. But I actually got to a point where so I actually have well, let's see, right now I'm down about 150 pounds from my highest. So
Wow.
I was way, way bigger. And that really came from, I would go to, drive to work. My office was next to a cheesecake factory. We would go there for lunch,
That's
and I had this
dangerous for me.
idea. Yeah, like I had this idea in my head that if you brought your lunch, it meant you were poor. So I was never bringing my lunch. I had to go out to lunch every day. So went to lunch and I would eat, they served bread. So I would eat there and it was good, right? So I'd eat their bread and
Hmm.
then I would eat the meal because of course also being Italian, you have to finish your plate. So
Right.
I would finish the plate.
Yeah.
And maybe we would have dessert, not necessarily so much, but occasionally. So those were all like, I mean, in retrospect, that was like, I don't even know, like a 5,000 calorie lunch every
Right.
single day.
Wow.
So I gained about 100 pounds in the first year of that job because it was crazy. And had no idea, that in addition to that, I was just fueling this lipedema because lipedema really does not get along well with carbs. It just doesn't. It just, I mean, I think that's across the board for most people. People find different ways of eating that work for them, but I think most people would say their inflammation skyrockets. So, and then once you have inflammation, then it kind of fuels the lipedema to grow, and it's just crazy. But
Like once that grows and becomes, a part of you, basically,
yeah,
you cannot, like, when you were working out, and did you see any difference, or really there
no,
is
you
no
can.
solution?
In my opinion, yeah. So like so I officially, when I was, going from my highest, I officially lost 220 pounds over a 2-year period. And it was because daily I was weightlifting. And I had done that 6 months, like it was like 2.5 years. So, like before I was even dieting, like 6 months before I was even dieting, I was working out, right? Um, and then I was eating protein only and like, I don't know, maybe 800 calories a day.
Oh my gosh.
Like,
It's like nothing.
I
It's like nothing.
lived on protein bars and protein shakes for, a good amount of that time. And
Hmm.
so I went from, oh God, I don't even know what my biggest, I remember I had a dress that was a size 34. I don't even know why. Oh, it was a straight dress. That's why. It was a straight dress, so to get my hips into it. So I think I had pants that were like size 26 maybe. Um, and then my smallest, like absolutely tight fitted pants were a size 12. But at that time I would wear like a size 6 skirt.
Wow.
So that was to accommodate my hips, because my hips and my legs were the biggest part. So if you look at me now, like I have a picture of me standing in Italy in a parking lot. And if you just like put that into a silhouette and you put my current silhouette next to it, it would just look like it puffed up, like it just gradually, but it's like the exact same shape. It's so crazy. It's
Yeah.
crazy. It's really weird.
And like, have you been able to find, and and if you could tell us how, if you have, like, to embrace this shape and really feel like, I love it. I love being curvaceous. I feel actually unique because not everyone has this, and it's beautiful, and I'm able to inspire and empower other women.
Yeah, it's funny because in about 2016, I went on this like awakening journey and I was like, okay, enough is enough. I need to I felt like I have a 13-year-old son, and so he was just getting to a certain age where he was, he could be on his own a little.
Yeah.
And and so I was like, I need to start focusing on me. I met someone and they asked me, so what do you do? What do you do for fun? And I was like, what do you mean? What do I do? Like, what does that mean? Like, I'm
Yeah.
a mom. Like,
Yeah.
I sit here waiting for my kid at the playground. Like, what are you talking about? What do I do for fun? And so that led me to, really think about like, what do I do for fun? And I was like, oh my God, I actually used to do things for fun and I used to be fun and, whatever. And so I went on this, journey to start reclaiming that, and in that, I was like, you know what? This really is not a bad body shape at all. I have actually always loved my body shape. I've always wanted it to be smaller, but for all intents purposes, I didn't really mind the shape. And so that was cool, right? I was there. I was getting there. And I think during that time also I lost some weight and I was working with a trainer again. And so I was really, I was getting back to my old self, right?
Hmm.
And then I get this lipedema diagnosis. And I'm like, are you kidding me? And at this point, the only way to actually remove it is to have a special form of liposuction that is particularly for lipedema. And so I'm like, hello, I just got into accepting this body and now you want me to get rid of it? Like that
Yeah.
seems, this for me was before social media. Like I didn't have an Instagram page. I had a Facebook page, but that was like my friends and family, and I posted clouds. Like there was nothing about me.
Yeah.
Um, and um, and so it was just so bizarre. And then
Hmm.
not long after that, I went to my first lipedema convention and I immediately volunteered. So I'm meeting people as they showed up. There was about 300, 400 women.
Wow.
Um, then I I modeled in the fashion show on the first night. And
That's awesome.
I would say, I mean, maybe I'm tooting my horn a little bit, but I would say
Toot toot away. We want you
the
to.
reception that I got was that maybe I was like, maybe had the most flair, the
Sure.
most, the
A little
most
bit of it.
style or whatever. And I also, um, I remember one dress that I had, I literally paid $13 for it. It was a designer. I forget what it was called. It was a designer. I paid $13 for it on sale at like a Marshall's. And I think I had shoes from Ross and I had tights from Walmart. And
Okay.
they were like I think like the whole outfit was like, I don't know, $40 or something like that, $50. And people were amazed, like, how could that be possible? And so for the rest of the weekend, because it was a weekend thing, for the rest of the weekend, people were coming up to me like, oh my God, I would love to dress like you. Oh my God, how do you do it? Oh my God, you have so much confidence. Oh my God, you look so great, whatever. And
Yeah.
I thought, wow, maybe this is my thing. Like maybe I need to be the voice of these people that are never, these women who could never even think to use their voice. And that's kind of how it came to me. I did a lot of reading. I read a lot of books. I really also tried to, I kind of lived most of my life in my masculine, where go, 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 do, goal, 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 that
Yeah.
kind of thing. And I kind of took a step back. I think in 2018, it was my year of receiving. And
Okay.
that was really unusual for me because I was always been a giver. And so it was like transforming how if you kind of let things come to you, they do.
Okay.
Um, and so I've read about a lot of stuff about that. I've read a lot of stuff about sex and relationships, and I
Is
even
there
went
any
to.
books that are like your top three that you would recommend for
So a
um
very transformative book that I read was called Pussy, actually.
oh really?
Yes,
That's what is it
written
called?
by um, um, my God, I'm going to blank on her name, but she owns Mama Gina's School of Womanly Arts in New
Okay.
York.
Okay.
Um, I came for a weekend workshop with her. That was amazing to be there with 700 women and actually hear so many people's stories and just be absolutely floored at
Yeah.
how flawed our thinking is. Just, I mean, I know So
Yeah.
it was just, it was the main, I mean, this is like crazy. Like, and as a person who had been all different sizes and really at that point I was still chasing the dream you could never be too thin or too rich, right?
Yeah.
So I don't believe that anymore. But they I was amazed at like the women who were seemingly like off of a runway, in Paris, but like drop dead gorgeous off of a runway, not like, you know, off the wall kind of thing. And they would be like, oh, I don't know, and I'd be like, are you kidding me? Like, are you seriously kidding me? Like, how is this thinking? How did this thinking get in your brain? Like,
Right.
what, And then as I started to get my social media, even in my own Facebook page with people that I knew, I kind of started thinking, okay, I'm going to come out in like 6 months, I'm going to come out that I have a lipedema, but I'm going to prepare everybody along the way. And I'm going to start teaching people in Studio City, California, that it's okay to have a butt because I was around all these women who were studio types and they didn't have a butt. I mean, there
Uh-huh.
was like me and maybe 10 other women on my son's school campus who had any kind of size to them. And so that was kind of, I thought I'm going to be funny, right? And then, but then I was getting, when I would talk about very gingerly about things, and then I would get women who were just like so successful and so beautiful and so, straight sized. And they would be like, oh, I felt that my whole life. Oh, when I had my eating disorder. Oh, when I blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh my God, this is epidemic proportions.
Absolutely.
And so, that was one of
And
the
not
things.
and it's not discriminating eating
No.
disorders or negative body image, any person,
Yeah,
background, size, age. So,
yeah, yeah,
gender,
yeah. And so many people still struggle. And you know, you know, so for me, when I was, doing all those things, losing and really focusing on my health, I was also part of a support group with a psychologist, and there were 10 other women, and we did a lot of work together. So, um,
I think a
you know,
support system is great. Definitely surrounding yourself with positive people, people that don't make you feel bad about yourself, people that you can reach out to if you're struggling, and also just a community. Like I felt a lot better just getting into the body positive and plus size community, and having more plus size friends, and just seeing role models loving themselves. That was a huge, game changer. So
yeah. And for me too, like people always say, oh, social media is so negative. Well, for me, it was completely different because I finally
yeah.
found people who look like me. And I was like, wow, that's amazing. And so I don't feel alone anymore. I don't feel
Right.
like I'm the only one who looks like this. Certainly when I walked into that first lipedema convention, I was like, what? There are other people that look like this.
Yeah.
What the heck? But different, it's a different group that I connect with, on my social media. And so
Yeah.
I've been really, pleasantly, not even pleasantly, but just, it feels so good to know that other people have your same struggle and they've overcome, they've overcome or they're overcoming,
Right.
like that.
I was just looking to see if like any
Very good
questions, but
question.
really I had put a question thing also in my story. So there's some responses from that. Like I had asked about like some books and stuff. Um,
Yeah.
and one of my good friends is, um, I don't know how to just, I don't know if I'm going to say it wrong, but she's more of like a body coach, intuitive eating,
Mhm.
professional, you know, basically in that realm of, and so I asked her for some books because I knew that she would have good recommendations. And so she said the anti-diet and the body is not an apology, or anti-diet and the body's not an apology. So just anyway, just putting that out there, but there's not really that many questions in the comments right now regarding this,
Yeah.
which is
The,
okay.
yeah. So there is definitely, I think that one of the things that, like, for all the anonymouses, right? Like, whatever, alcoholics, drugs, gamblers, whatever, sex, whatever, but Overeaters Anonymous, right? And so that's the group that covers any type of eating disorder. But really, so that, one of the key strengths of that is the community, right? Because that helps people to know that they're not alone. That helps them to have a mentor. That helps them to, connect. And what I actually learned through, over the years is that any type of, kind of addictive disorder does really have a key root in connection. And really, people can become very isolated in their disease,
Mm-hmm.
right? God forbid somebody's going to find out that I'm fat. God
Right.
forbid somebody's going to find out that I'm eating and purging. God forbid somebody's going to find out that I didn't eat today, you
Right.
know? And so depending where you are in that spectrum, you can hide it a little better or not, so much.
Mm-hmm. I
But
think, yeah, I think that is why I am trying my best to, over the years, I've always given like bits and pieces of my story or my journey, or my struggle, and I'm no longer ashamed to talk about it. I don't want other people to feel ashamed. I was for a long time like, oh, this is like, I did isolate,
mhm,
and not want to tell anyone, and kind of want to just like fix it on my own, but that doesn't happen, I feel. So I
yeah,
think it's best to become aware of when you are struggling, or maybe you might be starting to, and you can kind of reach out to people that you feel safe and comfortable with, and um, it helps you not feel alone, and also like have people to check in with you, and then you're like, okay, this is not where I want to be. You're basically saying this has happened, and that will happen in your, I mean, for me at least, I know, recovery is your whole life, so it's not like you're perfect, the rest of, oh, you're done, like you're never going to
right.
have a setback where you think a certain way or feel a certain way or do certain behaviors. So I think if you become more aware of it, and you're like, oh, why did this happen? Oh, I realized that I had like a bad day today because this and this happened, so now I'm going to work on, and I'm going to tell this person that I'm feeling this way. So then I'm working through it. I don't want to live in that, bad space. So,
Absolutely. On that BodyCon over the weekend, the Birds Papaya, Sarah, she was talking, she just had a baby 3 weeks ago, I don't remember. And she admittedly said, like, holy cow, I am now in this body that I'm not comfortable. I'm not comfortable in this body. I'm not comfortable in this postpartum body at all.
mm-hmm.
And I gotta tell you, I was on the phone looking at the apps for dieting apps and coaches and exercise, and I was like, holy cow, like what am I doing? Like
Yeah.
this is a perfectly normal feeling. This is a perfectly normal after birth body.
Right.
This is a perfectly normal thing to have to figure out. How do I go back to work? What do I do with this baby? What do I do with myself? How do I juggle? Whatever. And so it was really cool to hear her talk about
Yeah.
how shocked she was really when she realized, like, what are you doing? Like, wait a minute, like, we don't do that anymore. And
Yeah.
like, it's okay to just sit and be with where you're at. You know, I know that so many people right now, because of the pandemic, the stress, the just so much, right, that we've been through in the past year.
Yeah.
You know, so many people are beating themselves up for their, you know, post-COVID body. And I personally think that everybody just needs to get out of their head and get some grace, because there are seasons, right? Everybody's got a season. And really, if we would all just accept ourselves as we are in the moment, then we wouldn't, and honor our uniqueness. We wouldn't be always chastising ourselves for where we are.
Right. And
And it would just be a different experience. And I think people in COVID, lockdown, whatever, they had many reasons to eat. And so they did. But in addition, everybody forgets the fact that nobody moved their body. I mean, sure, there's 10% of the people that moved their body and turned it around and did amazing things with their body. But the most of the people did not do that. So even the amount of daily exercise, just what people got,
mhm.
like somebody walking across their apartment from their room to their desk each day to do their online work is not the same as when they left their apartment to go
Yeah.
to the office. Just that, you know, so somebody who never exercised a day in their life, the amount of number of just even steps or movement that people have gotten is just it's you know, and so everybody has to realize that life will resume. and
But
and
also,
it
like,
really,
I kind of think like the bigger message is that gaining weight is not the worst thing that could happen to you in
no,
your life, and definitely not in a pandemic where people are dying. It's like,
right,
thank God
no,
your body gained weight and is still functioning for you, you know? And I think that we need to change the fact that also weight loss is so celebrated as like the biggest achievement you could ever do. And like we shower people with praise for doing it, and we're so fixated on our bodies and how they look aesthetically. So I kind of feel like that's, you know, a really big part of it. We realized how many people were so upset that they gained weight, like that it's like it's the worst thing that could ever happen to you.
right,
Like,
right.
what?
And they've forgotten that if, God forbid, knock wood, that they had gotten COVID,
Mm-hmm.
that guess what? That extra little layer that they added really would help them while they're in the hospital and they're just being fed by an IV and they're, you know, like,
Right. I
or
mean, I
they,
don't know. I don't know. I can't comment because I don't
you
know
know,
about
they're
that.
sick at home in bed and they're not, you know, they're sick, so they're not eating.
Yeah.
So they're, you know, these are like total typical survival of the fittest, you know, like, let me store up for the famine, you know. I mean, it's just like,
Yeah. And I think some
but nobody
tools
gets
at
that
least.
messaging.
Oh, what did you say? Messages?
No, no, I'm saying, but nobody's
Oh,
walking around with that messaging.
right. And um I know for myself the way that if I was like really found myself focusing on aesthetics and especially my body and how I picking apart things, I would try to take a step back and think about all the things that my body does for me, all the things I'm able to do, walk, run, dance, go outside, experience things with my family and my friends. And you know, I have an able body and I should, in a healthy body, and I should just be thinking about that. Because I think I actually was on the train one time on the subway and I was having these negative thoughts about myself. Let's say I was like feeling like my stomach was big or something. I don't really remember, but I do remember seeing like a little girl that like didn't have one of her arms. And I was like, wow, you're an asshole. Like, I was like, what are you thinking? Like, what are you doing? Like, picking apart yourself when there are people that, you know, don't have the things that you have or wish they could have the things that you have. So I'm not like beating anyone up that has these thoughts, but it just kind of snaps you back into reality. And I think is a good tool if you do find yourself obsessing about like aesthetics.
Yeah. I have one thing to going back to like, how did you come to
Mm-hmm.
the accepting of your body? So one of the things that I think is really important for people, especially those people who have eating disorders, is I think it's really important to take pictures of yourself, because I think we are so disconnected from our bodies. And I think that also the body dysmorphia is really real. And
Mm-hmm.
I think also we don't generally see people that look like us, right? Because even if there's somebody there, we're looking at the other person that, because that's just how our mind is trained. Like,
Right.
oh, I'm not that. Oh, I'm not that. So you're missing the person who's really like you over there, right? Kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and especially for lipedema women, they're so used to covering up, because oftentimes lipedema women have really big ankles. So they're often, they're wearing floor length dresses, or, like, me, I have my arms in the sleeve. So you're not seeing somebody with, hanging arms or whatever.
Right.
Um, and everybody's walking around covered up, or plus size girls often are walking. I mean, I was looking at a picture of me the other day, and I was like, from years ago, and I was like, what the hell was that I was wearing? Like, I was wearing this huge oversized thing, and I looked like a complete and utter just square blob that is actually, probably made me look like 3 times the size that I was. So no
Mm-hmm.
wonder I felt the way that I did.
Yeah.
And and so I think that if you start taking pictures, you actually start, and not for anybody, right? Just for yourself, just to be in your camera roll. Um, then you actually start to see what you look like, right? And the first time you're going to be like, oh dear God, like that's horrific, And the
Right.
next time you're going to be
Yeah.
like, yeah, that's just disgusting. And then the next time after that, you're going to be like, yeah, no, I can't do this anymore.
Right.
But like familiarity breeds, um, and I
Yeah.
can say, like, even for me now, like when I look at, I can come from a photo shoot and I can look at the proofs and I'd be like, yeah, no, right? Like, no, 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 and no. But then I'll find like, hey, wait a minute. There's a reason why I needed to see that one. And hey, wait a minute. There's a reason why people need to see this one, because X, Y, and Z, whatever.
Right.
And so I do
We.
think that it
Mm-hmm.
really helps you to connect, because I really do believe that so many people are so disconnected.
Absolutely, I agree with you. Because I basically started doing that without knowing, because I started to get into social media and modeling and all of that. But before that, I definitely wasn't taking any pictures at all, and would like run from mirrors. I would like be in the store and I would like not even look at the mirror, because I just assumed in my head I wasn't gonna like what I was gonna see, and I was going to just avoid it and hopefully avoid photos. But once I started to put that reality like and actually look at how I looked, it was different than what my mind created. And also, I always tell people that do shoots, like whatever it is, especially boudoir shoots, but like any shoot, especially if you're just starting, there's gonna be at least 10 pictures that you hate. Like there, and it's
Oh,
not your fault.
absolutely.
There's
Yeah,
lighting issues. There's the clothes were just on you a little weird, or your hair was messed up. Like there's a million issues of why the photo is not what photo that you like, and it may not have anything to do with you. And also sometimes you go through like a stack of pictures, like you said, you looked at it right away and you were like, no, no, no. But that's almost like you're still like your inner critic is like coming out
right,
right away. But then if you take a step back and you come back maybe a couple days later, like you said, you saw something new in the picture that at first you were like, no, 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 I don't like that, which happens to me. I did like a nude shoot, like a body positive nude shoot, and I felt that way right away. I opened the images and I was like, oh my God, like this is a lot. And I needed to just close it and then come back to it. And
right,
then I was like, oh wait, I love this one. I love this one. I love that. So
right.
it's just in your head sometimes, literally.
Yeah, yeah.
But
And
it
I think,
helps to see it, to see
I
yourself.
think that following the body, the body positive, I don't usually call myself body positive. I usually say that I'm about acceptance, because I think it's a fine line.
Yeah.
Like, I think before you can be positive about your body, you have to accept it, kind of thing.
Yeah, I agree.
Um, and so,
But
and
there's
I know,
different levels to everyone in this like community. Like not everybody has to be like you said, for instance, you don't usually edit any of your photos at all. I'm
yeah,
not really at that level where like sometimes this is hanging out and I want to make it smoother and it makes me feel comfortable in that moment. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. As long as I know that I'm trying my best every single time I do a shoot or do whatever to not feel bad about these things, but that doesn't make me any less
no,
positive about this movement and wanting to love myself. It's like there's different journeys for everyone, and you know the women that show like every, you know, they want to show roles and they want to put that out there, and I'm happy that they're doing it, and maybe one day like I'll be on that boat, but like doesn't mean that I have to be there, you know, today. So everyone's
exactly.
at different, and it's
That's not
no
your
one's
that's
better or
not part
worse.
of your journey. That's not part
Right.
of your journey, right? I mean, that, yeah, that doesn't have to be, you
Right.
know.
Everyone can be at their own levels and what they feel comfortable, because no one should feel uncomfortable like saying like,
Yeah,
oh, I love myself. So I think some people feel like they have to do like half naked images or images in lingerie or bathing suits, but you don't. Like that just happens to be something that empowers me as a person and
right,
expressing, you know, sexiness and sex appeal. I feel
right.
powerful when I do that, but doesn't mean you don't have to
Yeah.
do that to like
Yeah. And for me, I finally ventured into that last Valentine's. I did a lingerie shoot,
Nice.
and it was because it was like, okay, like in this, it just in the little lipedema community, it was like the thought that somebody could be sexy was like, it is like a misnomer, like that it can't possibly be. And
Yeah.
it's like, no, no, you really can, and you can really cover your bits that you really don't want, like you can do it tastefully. You don't have to have everything shine, and you can actually find things to camouflage what you don't, what you're
Baby
not
steps, kind of
comfortable with.
baby steps.
Absolutely,
Hmm.
like, so, don't get a sheer, get a, a thicker,
Full
you
coverage.
know,
Yeah.
yeah, it's just, yeah. So there's so many different ways that you can come to, but I really think it's so much about really, actually, what I always hope with a picture of mine is I hope that I can get across the message. Can you consider? I don't even want you to do it. I want you to consider that you could be okay. Like, I want you to consider that, right?
Yeah.
And then I want you to look at my picture, and I want a group to be like, hell no, like, God forbid, don't ever let me look like that. And it keeps them on their straight and narrow. I want another group to be like, hell yes, that's what I look like.
Okay.
Oh, wow, like, cool, right? I
Yeah.
didn't know somebody looked like me. And then I want another group to be like, wow, if I could only get to that. And simply because I know it can be done because I've done it, right?
Yeah.
So I like, I feel like, it's, you have to take baby steps. It doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't,
Absolutely. I'm sort
you
of,
know,
I've become, I want to say, a bit of an extremist with my body because I did want to challenge my ideals. Like I did a when I did a nude shoot or I did a only body paint or I did only glitter on my body, it wasn't like, oh, my body is so hot, I can't wait to get there, I'm not feeling insecure about anything and I'm the shit. No, I did not feel like that at all, but there were things that
right,
I wanted to be able to do regardless of my size, and I wasn't waiting for any sort of moment. Why am I waiting? I always wanted to be, a centerfold or those types of women. So okay, I'm just gonna do it and like hope for
right.
the
There's
best.
no
And
shame in the
usually,
present.
yeah, usually pushing those boundaries and those restrictions I put upon myself in my body I couldn't do it. I would do it anyway, and then I'd be like, oh, like this looks good, or
Right.
but maybe I hate this one. Okay, but that's fine.
No,
But I did it, and now I can do
totally
kind of
newfound
anything.
freedom, right? A totally newfound freedom, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And I think that that's part of breaking down the chains and the barriers is that you have to push yourself. So even if
Right.
it's just taking that photo on the one day and then taking one the next day, that you're pushing a barrier if you don't ever do that. You know what I'm saying? You're
Yeah.
really, you have to do it. I just was going to do yesterday, I was going to do body painting and body taping, right?
Oh, like
Photo shoot.
tape, like
Yeah, like she uses tape as the design.
nice. Oh
So,
yeah, actually I've seen that. It can be really
yeah,
cool. That can be like
it got
awesome.
it got
Like
it
black.
got pushed a couple of weeks, and then I was like, wow, like I'm like gonna be naked. Like it was just like, wait a minute.
Like forgot. Yeah.
I'm like, because like they're like, putting the behind the scenes up, and they're like and I was just like, oh, like. Like to me, I'm like, oh, I'll try it. Like I need to do this. I'll try it.
Yeah.
But I think it would be great. Like we'll see how it comes out, kind of thing. But then I was like, oh wait, no, like I'm in this. Like I'm
Yeah.
like, this is
I think
so.
that's awesome.
We'll
I'm
see,
so
we'll
excited
see
for
how
you.
that works out.
Good.
So
That's
she's
so
like,
good.
she's going to use me as a example of learning how to work more with curves and the taping. So I was like, well, you
Good.
really can't get much better than like,
Absolutely. You're like, I got them. You want curves? I'm bringing
like,
them.
you can't really get much curvier.
I know. I was looking at some of your pictures and I was like, I love this. Oh, you had like a silhouette, like the silhouette challenge, like
Yeah, I
picture. And
know.
I was
I'm like,
like, wow, that is amazing silhouette. I love
I'm
that.
like, if I can only just get that damn video out of my camera. I'm like, right now, my biggest challenge is technical. So like to get them from doing it to like, launching it is my thing. I really need to take some kind of a editing class for videos or that kind of thing because I just
It's
don't know how to
hard.
do it.
Like, it's not easy. So I'm still like figuring it out. And that's what I hate about creating
Oh my
is the
God.
technical aspect of it. But
Yeah.
I think, like you said, with taking the pictures, one thing that I posted about that I would love for people to do is just normalize complimenting themselves. And like
Yes.
you were saying, like, I don't want to toot my own horn, or it's so commonplace for a group of people to speak negatively about the way that they look and maybe about
Right.
their lives and commiserate. But why don't we start being like, you know what? Look at my makeup today. I mean, by the way, I think my makeup looks really good and I'm feeling myself on camera. And
Right.
it doesn't mean
Yeah.
you have
Well, I
a
always think it's
an
funny. Like,
ego.
why am I feeling? Like, what is that expression? I'm feeling myself.
Yeah,
Like, what? Why can't it just be good? Like, why? Why do you have?
it's
What? Like,
normal. Yeah,
why is it a standout that should I look good today?
yeah,
Like, why is that? Why do people have to put that? I'm feeling myself because it kind of it's like the excuse. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
Like,
Or it's
we
like,
can't
oh, it's
just
only
say it.
once in a while, like
Yeah,
that you
yeah.
feel that way.
But
Yeah,
I always find it like really like so why isn't it okay that we feel ourselves? I understand that we don't think that we should, you
yes,
know,
taught
but
like
yet
that.
we're also trying to get positive. So it's like again the double messaging like we had in the house, like eat this, but don't, but don't.
Yes.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know how we've all come to this. I mean, we could talk
Well,
about
it's
this for
basically the whole diet industry, food, they are trying, and beauty industry, they are actually actively trying to make you feel bad so that
right.
you will buy their products and feel like you need to change. I mean, a lot of people don't know that there's a lot of secret, tricky things that we talked about a lot when I was in treatment, that like they food companies will literally put on, let's say, pretzels. They'll be like, these pretzels now fat free, but the pretzels were always fat free. But it's because they know that that is a very good marketing scheme, and they know that they want to get into people's heads. Um, they're tricking you, like, kind of in a way, and they want you to buy it with that. Wait, I think you froze for a sec. Can you see me? Can you hear me? Are you there? Beth, where are you? She left, but I guess she must have froze. But I'm sure we'll get her back. Just one sec. I hope you guys are enjoying. If you have any questions that you would like to leave for us in the question box, because we turned off the comments to kind of give respect to this topic. And also I have a fundraiser going for the National Eating Disorders Association. It's really one of the biggest organizations that do research, walks, fundraisers, petitions for more coverage and availability for treatment for a lot of different people struggling with eating disorders, and also resources that you can use on your own to help yourself, to help others. So hopefully I'm going to be doing some more lives this week. I don't know. I just sort of came up with it that if anyone is looking to share their story or speak about coming out on the other side of an eating disorder and just feeling confident and happy in yourself, that is something that I feel. So I just want people to know that even though it's easy to talk a lot about body struggles, I really want people to know that I have come out on the other side, and I can address those issues and feel good and go after the things that I want in life. And there is, hope for that. I think a lot of times people feel like, and I have felt this way, that when I had an eating disorder, that was like, this is just who I am. Like, I'll always feel this way. I'll always be trying to lose weight. I'll always like wait till the perfect moment or the perfect body to do certain things. But you won't. Like, you don't have to live like that. That is not your identity. That's not who you are. It's just something that was a struggle in your life, but you can overcome it. So I think we must have lost Beth, but it was an amazing talk chatting with her. You can definitely find her at Curvygirlbeth, and I appreciate her being here and chatting with me today. And lipodema is something that I hope more people become aware of, especially if they have a body type of that way, and they'll be able to gain some clarity on that. And hopefully people will talk about that more, but you can see all of that on her page at Curvygirlbeth. And it's time for me to get out of here. Thanks so much for joining me, and I will see you all again soon. Definitely Wednesday night for Thick City, IG Live, 8 o'clock.